Haki roto, haki waho. Kia tau te Māori e kōkiri nei, i ngā piki, i ngā heke, ko te rangi Māori e tāku e rapu nei. Tihei, Māori ora. Breathe in, breathe out. Settle the Māori that stirs inside of me. Through the ups and the downs, it is peace that I seek. Nau mai, hara mai. Welcome everybody to our 5th webinar in the 6th series. Today we are focusing on sustainability and ecology, and we have an amazing panel with us. But today what we're looking at is around how we are using Indigenous understandings of land, sea and sky to create sustainable ways of working. My name is Keita Twist, and I am delighted to be able to co-host today. I whakapapatū tainui te aroa tūhoi Ngāti Manoa on the side of my father, and on the side of my mother, Ngāti Tahu Ngāti Whāo me Ngāti Tūwhare Toa. I am based here in Wellington in New Zealand. I'm going to hand to Lucy for Lucy, my co-host, to introduce herself as well.
Kia ora koutou. Welcome everybody. Ko waio, he uri tēnei no te atiawa ki Waikawa. I te pua ki ahau ki te tai tokorau no Pakaraka, I noho ana ahau ki te whanganui a Tara, ko Lucy Shan tōku ingoa. Hello, kia ora. I am Lucy. My people, my ancestors come from the top of the South Island of New Zealand, but I'm based here at the bottom of the North Island of New Zealand in the wonderful Wellington wind. I am a service designer myself and have a history of design and art and culture practicing, and I'm absolutely delighted to be a co-host this morning for this wonderful conversation around sustainability and ecology. And I would like to hand over to our one of our wonderful speakers today, Teal, to introduce herself. Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much, Lucy. And thanks again for the opportunity to be here on this call, on the webinar today, and the chance to have what I know is going to be an amazing conversation in relationship to the kind of preparatory chats that we had before this evening. At least in London, it's this evening time to come onto the call. So my name is Teal Triggs. I'm a professor of graphic design at the Royal College of Art here in London. I'm originally from Texas, and I moved to London about 30 years ago, where I was doing postgraduate work at one of the universities here. And I've had a good time in terms of my career. I've had an interesting time in terms of being both a researcher and a design educator. And my background is originally in graphic design. And the reason I came over to the UK was to study design history and to engage more fully in activities around design research. My research tends to focus on feminist practices, but also community and participatory practices. And I've been exploring the role of critical archiving in relationship to grassroots advocacy, storytelling, and ownership of community histories. And I'm very much interested in craft practices and ways that we can bring together the histories of individuals and their craft making and bring that out into the world for conversation and for dissemination in terms of Indigenous knowledge. So as I said, I'm really looking forward to the conversation today. Celia, if I can pass over to you, and then after you've introduced yourself, maybe you pass it over to Cacique Domingos.
Good afternoon. My name is Celia Matsunaga. My background is, my family is Japanese, and so I'm Brazilian Japanese, kind of, you know, mixed. In Brazil, we are mixed. I'm a professor at the University of Brasilia, and we have a postgraduate program in Brazil, and we have also a group university researchers teaching relating to the Amazon. We've been working on the Amazon since 40 years, more or less, in the university. I've been in this group since 10 years, more or less. Yeah, more or less 10 years. And with Cacique Domingos in Aldeia Munduruku de Bragança, which is in Pará. We are together since 2015. It's quite amazing the way we've been learning and oh God, sorry. Being working together, and also with Teal. It's amazing, this opportunity just to be here and just to share what we've been doing here. I think it's okay. I will introduce Cacique Domingos. Cacique Domingos, é sua vez. Eu gaguejei aqui um monte, mas é a sua vez de falar. Pode dizer que eu vou traduzir para o senhor. Eu sou péssima também.
Para mim me apresentar?
Isso.
Para mim me apresentar?
Isso.
Ok, então, boa tarde. É um prazer. Eu sou o Cacique Domingos, daqui da aldeia Bragança, do povo Munduruku, aqui na Flona, na Floresta Nacional do Tapajós, aqui no município de Belterra. Então, eu estou aqui para poder ajudar o que for necessário. É um prazer muito grande conhecer todos que estão aí na reunião, né? Um pouco distante, mas a gente vai visualizando um pouco. Mas, enfim, eu quero aqui dar os meus parabéns, a alegria poder estar com vocês nessa reunião. E, infelizmente, nós não estamos com um material bem confortável, mas é de grande prazer estar aqui recebendo vocês nesse momento e aquela alegria muito grande de vocês estarem com a gente, assim, tipo, poder colaborar com a gente, essas parcerias, para nós é muito importante. Então, é isso. Quero deixar o meu abraço a todos e seja bem-vindo até a aldeia. E vai ser um prazer imenso a gente um dia se conhecer pessoalmente, mas eu deixo aqui vocês à vontade nesse momento. É isso.
Okay. He said, good afternoon. My name is Cacique Domingos. I'm living here in the forest, National Tapajós Forest, and he's inside this environment, and really happy to be here tonight or today, in this afternoon. And he said, I'm really happy to have this opportunity to exchange this knowledge and exchange this opportunity to have this conversation with you all. And he said he hope one day you can go there and also just to know him in person. He said, I want to welcome everybody just to come here and to be here with us here in the aldeia, which is the village. I guess, yes, more or less this.
Thank you so very much for those amazing introductions. And it is wonderful to have all three of you here in our panel today. We have a couple of people who are listed as joining us, but the world is as the world is, and unfortunately Laura Whangai Ganda is having a few internet issues. Hopefully Laura will be able to join us throughout this kōrero, and Moffat Takadiwa was also supposed to join us, but is currently in the process of trying to organise a very big piece of work and has had to pull out of our kōrero. But we are very, very fortunate to have the Chief Cacique Domingos here to talk with us. And I just wanted to say it is so lovely to hear other reo being spoken, so other languages being spoken, and to hear what other people have to say in their native tongue. It is a really lovely experience to have. So thank you both, all three of you, for sharing yourselves with us today. One thing that we have noticed across the webinars that we've been running, so this is number 5 in the 6th series, there's a lot of commonalities that occur when you're working alongside Indigenous people in Indigenous ways. And when, as an Indigenous designer, you are bringing yourself to a piece of work, one thing that we've noticed there's 3 or 4 different things that we've noticed that keep coming up. And I think today's kōrero is a really awesome opportunity for us to talk with yourself, Teal, and Celia, about what it is like to work from a Western point of view, working alongside an Indigenous, not only just an Indigenous person, but an entire Indigenous community that also don't speak English, right? So we have such an awesome opportunity to kind of hear from you two about what that looked like, and also to hear from the chief himself about what working alongside you two feels like. So, this is a really cool kōrero, I think. I wanted to point out some of the things that are common. So the first thing that we have that has come through every single time is around reciprocity. And when working in Indigenous ways with Indigenous people, reciprocity is one of the most important things. So it's not necessarily about what I take away from, it's what do I bring to the table? What do I have in my hands that I offer to the people that I'm working with? And when I receive something back, how do I show the people that I've been working with what I'm doing with that, what it means, and what change that's created? Another really common theme is around manaaki, or care of, taking care of the people that you are working with. How are we caring for people? How are we making sure that what we do is for their betterment? There's a thing around connection. It's understanding that you are part of something other than just yourself or just this piece of work. And then there's the connection to te taiao, to the environment, to the land, to the sea, to the sky. And as Indigenous designers and Indigenous people across the globe, there is this understanding that there is a connection between you and those things. And it shows through in a lot of the kōrero that we're having. And I think the other one that's come through quite a bit is around collaboration. So how are we making sure that we are having conversations with people? How are we bringing people to the table? How are we taking what they say and understanding their points of view and bringing this into the mahi and the way that we mahi, or the way that we work, sorry. And so those are some really common themes that have come through. And I think it's a really nice kind of starting point for our conversation around, working alongside different cultures. And Teal, I'm going to pose the question to you first, but please feel free to pass this between you, Celia, and the chief as well, as appropriate. When we think about, Indigenous ways of knowing and making, one of the things I'm really curious about is how does this form your worldview when you have these two different worldviews coming together? So how do you understand the Indigenous ways of knowing and making, and how do you, Teal and Celia, how do you incorporate that into the work that you do?
Right, I think that's a fantastic starting point for the conversation today. In terms of Indigenous ways of knowing and making, as you said, I'm coming from a very Western academic perspective. I have been fortunate to have the opportunity to work with Celia and Cacique Domingos on a project which gave me a great deal of opportunity to watch, to listen, to be immersed in other ways of doing and knowing and making and understanding. And I think one of the things as a researcher that I really had to think about was how do I take all this? How do I see what's in front of me and understand it, and then bring it back into my way of thinking and doing? And what the project, which we might talk a little bit about in a minute, brought to my understanding was a way of, I'm trying to think of the best way of saying it, a way of really listening and watching. So the project that we were engaged with was an online digital project. So I would say up front, Cacique Domingos and I have never met in person. And that has been such an interesting and strange relationship. But as a result of that, I think we've been given tremendous privileged insights into the village, into the conversations that we've had with the chief and the craftspeople that are working in his village. And I've had to really think radically differently, not only in terms of Indigenous ways of knowing, but in terms of how technologies mediate our experiences of knowing and understanding. And I think one of the things that perhaps maybe Celia could talk about in a minute as well is our project was given funding for a very short period of time, for less than a year. And we've been working together now for 4 or 5 years on the project. And I'm still learning new things. Every time that we get together, there are new opportunities that come up. There are new kinds of conversations that come up. And I find it incredibly enriching. And as I said, I mean, I know we tend to overuse the word privilege, but there is something really magical and very important to understand in terms of these kinds of relationships. And my relationship with Cacique and Celia and others who've been involved in this project, the villagers, the craftspeople, has been incredibly special. And I don't take any of that for granted. And the learning from that, I've been able to kind of bring back into my own teaching. We've had opportunities. Celia has been to the Royal College of Art on several occasions as a visiting researcher to bring her understanding and knowledge into the community. And we've had a number of really fantastic opportunities with Cacique Domingos to talk to the British public at the Crafts Council on events we've been there, and other panel discussions to kind of share and disseminate the knowledge that he brings and his craftspeople bring to our understanding of world crafts generally. So Celia, I don't know if you want to kind of pick up on any of that, but I think just to say that I'm constantly learning and I don't take any of this for granted. And I think there is so much that we can bring back into academic scholarship. But I hope that I'm giving something back to the project as well in terms of the village and what Cacique needs and is asking for us to be involved with. In that, you were talking about reciprocity. That's very much what it feels like we have it here, and whether or not we can articulate that this evening, I imagine we can, but there is something really special and unique about it. Celia, I don't know if you want to kind of expand on any of that.
It's been an honor for us to be connected to the Royal College of Art and also to the village. I think we have to separate moment because we start before meet Teal, and the relationship with the Cacique Domingos starting 2015, and it was amazing when we first met. We've been with some students, a student from master degree and also PhD degrees, and it was amazing because we have here in Brazil a very big country, and we have 60% is the Amazon, and we don't realize that it's 60% of Brazil is the Amazon, and also for the language we have 274 different languages. 274, it's a lot. And we never thought it's possible just to be inside the aldeia, the village, and also to work together with them, because I saw many times, and also in conference, and also meeting in government movement as well. But I never thought it would be possible just to be inside the village and work with them. And it was a very open, because Cacique said, you are all welcome to our village. And he say all the time the same for everybody else. So I think it's really nice, this point, because it changed the way we feel and understand the indigenous culture. It's different when we see this from the outside, from the book, for instance, or whatever, internet or anything, because it's completely different when we are inside the village, and also to understand how they absolutely live together, because they have different society. It's a completely different in the way they behave, and also they behave in family, and also children, young teenagers or adults, how the relationship between them is absolutely amazing, because it's different from our side. And for students as well, it's something that changes absolutely their life. So I think that's the point for our students, from our perspective in our university. And when you start a project related to Teal, it was amazing, because something really different happened between us three, because it was different. And also the village, how they behave related to Teal, because they were so excited, and they were so wanted to know her, to know what they say, what they are doing, what exactly looks like England, how it is to speak different language, something that we don't actually think they feel like this. So something that happened, and also the way when we tried to get from communication process, it was quite hard, because in the village, in the Amazon as well, we have, like different weather condition, which make very difficult. Many times it breaks, many times we lose the connection. It's something that I'm so impressed, because he's okay there. Look, he's okay, it's not raining, it's really okay. The designer looks like it's okay. It's not always like this, isn't it, Teal? We had a lot of problems related to this connection. Yeah. And for the side, as a researcher, we've been working together, Teal and I, and we've been understand how incredible it is with the way RCA works with community as well, and also especially with Teal and Matt, how they understand this relationship, and also the ethic related to Indigenous, and also the process as well, and methodology I used in this process was amazing. It was really good, and we've been discussing a lot about this. I will ask Cacique to say something, because I think, yeah, is it okay to ask him to say something?
Yeah.
Cacique, a gente está falando aqui um pouco sobre essa experiência, né? De estar o senhor aí na aldeia, a gente aqui, e a Teal, e todos eles em países diferentes, e eles estão falando especialmente do trabalho, do projeto que a gente desenvolveu junto. A Teal, você e eu aqui na Universidade de Brasília. Então, é para falar um pouquinho assim, sobre a perspectiva de vocês, aí, indígena, como vocês estão enxergando também, né? Esse olhar sobre vocês também, né? Então, a cultura, né? Diferentes culturas trabalhando juntos. Como que o senhor está vendo isso? Como que foi o trabalho com a Teal, com o Ecology? O que o senhor achou?
Primeiramente, eu achei uma coisa muito, assim, muito, posso dizer muito bom, né? Porque a gente viu um novo conhecimento, buscamos como se aproximar e poder também aprender algo que a gente não sabia. Hoje a gente sabe manejar um pouco. Isso foi uma experiência muito boa que a gente tive, assim, a ideia de como agora ter um prosseguimento com essa parte que a gente aprendeu. Então, para nós é muito importante a gente continuar trabalhando em cima do que a gente aprendeu um pouco e juntando com o que a gente sabe, a gente acaba descobrindo coisas melhores. Então, uma colaboração nessa parte que foi, junta-se com a gente que sabe uma parte também. Então, isso ficou muito rico para nós. Então, para nós agora pensar em como manejar isso e poder tirar os frutos desse aprendizado.
Sim. Okay. He said it was really good opportunity for them because they understand how different it is when you have different culture. So the way we started this relationship as well to get together. So and also what they learned from this process as well, because he said we didn't have some knowledge, especially in terms of technology. They didn't have that, and now they have some because it was possible because of this project, which Teal had the organized, and also we got the found by British Council, and they have now computers, some cameras, something that they are improving now. He said the starting point was good because now they are improving by themselves, but also from what they learned from us.
Thank you very much. That sounds across that conversation, hearing again some of the commonalities that we talked about reciprocity, about the connection, and about the care. It sounds like Celia and Teal, you were both cared for very, very well, and it also sounds like you were very, very caring in the way that you were working alongside the chief and his whānau, his people. So that's really, really awesome. A couple of things that you talked about in there sparked something of interest for me. So we're talking about technology. So the chief mentioned that, or you helped to introduce technology into their village, and I'm kind of keen to understand. So, and again, this is slightly different to design, but it's more about, so what impact has that had in terms of the community and their connection to the outside world?
Cacique, ela quer entender assim como a gente levou tecnologia, né, assim, para aprender também os processos, tanto os materiais como também aprender, como Gustavo também deu, né, cursos para aprender a mexer com a câmera e tudo, né? Mas principalmente o que o senhor como o senhor está vendo em relação à tecnologia, assim, o que o fato do senhor hoje utilizar a tecnologia, né? Que era uma coisa fora do seu conhecimento indígena, o que isso tem trazido, assim, de benefício ou alguma coisa, pode ser até malefício também, né? Isso, o que a tecnologia trouxe para vocês, assim, em termos de melhoria ou pioria?
Essa pergunta é muito, assim, importante para que a gente possa responder. Mas a tecnologia, isso tinha que aparecer a tecnologia, né? E ela trouxe um pouco de E assim, tipo, coisa que a gente não esperava, né? Mas um conhecimento mais longo e saber que é uma peça importante também para nós, que como vai evoluindo o mundo, o tempo, a gente tem que ir nessa parte, porque é muito importante a gente aprender algo que pode ajudar com a tecnologia.
Uhum.
Se o Estado for preciso que haja a tecnologia para ajudar, então eu achei que é muito importante a parte do aprendizado também, que a gente trocar experiência, buscar algo diferente através da tecnologia. Isso foi muito, muito bom para estudar, para trabalhar e tem oferecer algo assim mais rápido, porque aqui nós na floresta a gente tem um pouco de atraso na questão de assim, mostrar mais coisas mais boas, mais rápido. Então, a tecnologia ela trouxe essa experiência que a gente tem ela como também uma principal ferramenta muito importante para nós ajudar a divulgar, ajudar a vender e faz parte da nossa vida agora.
Ótimo. He said this is a very important point. Technology is being developing all around the world, and they know that, and they didn't expect actually just to understand so deeply. Now they have this opportunity just to be much more involved in these tools. He said tools because they have some equipment and they have some possibility just to exchange or share the way they live, share their culture, the way they behave, and also for the people to learn much more about indigenous people, indigenous way of living, and he said for them it is very important to for the young people, and also for the school, for learning, for sharing. And he said that it's a very important if it's use it in a good way.
So I wonder if sorry, Lucy, I was just going to say that there was another aspect to the use of technology that Celia and I wrote into the proposal for our application to the British Council. And just to maybe be a little bit more clear, that we did receive the British Council's Crafting Futures Digital Collaboration Grant. So it was all around ideas of technology and the digital nature of it being used in research and educational processes. And this was at a time when we were just coming out of the pandemic. So it resonated very much in terms of the aspects of the physicality of researchers, to safeguarding researchers, and so forth. Everything that I'm sure we're all very much aware of, that the pandemic itself limited access to a lot of things that we had been previously undertaking. But I also want to say that the technology for us was about being a great leveler, in the sense that the phone, in terms of communication technologies, was something that everybody had access to, or the majority of people had access to in the village. And it became not just a communication device in the sense of being able to call or WhatsApp, but also to be able to document and to give the villagers the opportunity to engage in their own documentation in the way that they want to do the documentation of their craft practices. So the craft practices for us were the kind of a grounding and the sharing of knowledge exchange, through which the technology then helped facilitate different aspects of the project. And of course, the website, the library, as we call it, the Munduruku Library, which gives us a sense of the kinds of craft activities and the stories that go along with those craft activities. And importantly, the kind of intergenerational aspects of education and learning that a website gives to us outside of the village, and how we can begin to understand better what's going on inside the community. So I just wanted to kind of add that context. There was a whole lot of different kinds of technologies going on here with a whole lot of different intentions, but all quite amazing in terms of how they came together and really solidified the project.
Thank you, Teal, and thank you, Cacique and Celia, for giving that wonderful, rich context about the power of technology and in terms of being able to share and amplify Indigenous voices. Something I find quite interesting that sort of is teasing my brain with this is the power of technology to share these otherwise untold stories or otherwise limitedly distributed stories. And in particular, Indigenous cultures have been sounding the alarm for the climate crisis since time immemorial, particularly because Indigenous societies are living in conjunction with nature, living within the natural limits. And I'm interested to maybe talk some more about how through technology, the work, Cacique, of your wonderful village is able to be shared in terms of custodial practices, crafts, and your ways of living within the natural environment.
Cacique, a questão que ela está levantando assim, a gente falou muito sobre tecnologia, a Teal, que ela falou, foi relacionada a como essa tecnologia ajudou nesse processo de recuperação da memória. Então, assim, tudo que se faz aí na aldeia foi, então, registrado, então vocês registraram e mandaram para a gente, e a gente colocou no site, né, no website. Então, aí, isso tudo está sendo falado aqui, o que aconteceu, né? E a Teal lembrou dessa parte que eu acho também que é muito importante. Agora, a outra professora, a outra pessoa, ela falou assim, que uma coisa que ela quer conhecer mais, quer entender mais, é que vocês vivem integrados na natureza, né? Então, assim, como é essa relação de vida na natureza, né? Então, como é que isso se dá exatamente, né? E, assim, tecnologia, que impacto isso tem relacionado a isso? O senhor consegue entender isso? Conseguiu entender?
Pode falar mais só para me entender melhor?
Assim, em relação à questão da natureza, né? Então, como, assim, vocês são muito integrados à natureza, o homem e a natureza, assim, a indígena é completamente envolvido nas questões da natureza, né? Então, assim, como é que isso se dá no seu dia a dia? Como é que você vive integrado à natureza? Talvez fosse bom falar mais nessa parte, né? Aí depois a gente fala na segunda parte, o senhor pode falar um pouquinho sobre isso, assim, a possibilidade que o senhor tem hoje, né, de transferir esse conhecimento que vocês têm sobre a natureza para as outras pessoas, né, assim como agora, né?
Muito bem. Nós vivemos aqui na natureza muito ligado a ela, né? Porque tudo que a gente faz, a gente tira como alimento, e o dia da gente é da natureza, né? O remédio, a comida, e as frutas, tudo, enfim, é muito bem ligado à natureza mesmo. Só que agora, com esse novo clima, a gente sabe que isso vai, cada dia que passa, ele vai ficando mais difícil para nós que vivemos aqui no nosso entorno, por exemplo, a devastação, né? Aí ela vem fazer com que essa própria natureza, que a gente está tão acostumado, que vive nela, viveu, que nasceu e hoje estamos nela, a gente sabe que isso vai se transformando em uma tragédia para a nossa vida, porque a natureza é a nossa vida. E com isso, Por isso que a gente falou um pouco da tecnologia e da parte também de fomentação com relação à natureza. A gente precisa muito de algo que possa ajudar na transformação do que está se tornando hoje em devastação. Por exemplo, o nosso pensamento é manter ela em pé e manter a vida junto com ela, mas precisamos também fomentar, por exemplo, reflorestar. E o nosso é todos os dias a gente plantar árvore para que a nossa vida esteja ligada a essa natureza. Então, para nós, da forma que está vindo essa nova experiência do mundo, do homem, e é muito difícil para a gente chegar ao final de uma vida bem harmoniosa. Então, para nós é difícil. O que o homem está pensando hoje? E nós, aqui como indígena, pensa que essa natureza é a nossa mãe, a nossa vida. Então, sem ela, a gente não é capaz de viver. Então, por isso que colocamos à disposição das pessoas que querem nos ajudar, mas ajudam dessa forma para que a gente tenha uma energia de qualidade, por exemplo, uma energia com placa solar, e não da energia que nós temos aqui, é muito difícil. A gente não tem como armazenar mais nossos alimentos, e a gente não tem como sobreviver quase. Então, é preciso a gente pensar muito mais tarde naqueles que vêm. Então, para que mais tarde eles estejam também vivendo como nós estamos vivendo com a natureza, é preciso a gente plantar e ensinar as pessoas para o mundo que vem aí. Então, para nós, a nossa vida é mesmo a natureza.
Okay. He said the concern about the environment and also about the nature is absolutely urgent. He said they live all combined, also in harmony with the nature, and the nature give them everything, give them everything, food, fruits, and also the fish. They can fish, they can eat everything they have from the nature. But nowadays things changed, and the climate changed, and the disasters in terms of the climate, and also the destroyed the forest, like fire and the mining and everything. They've been suffering inside the forest as well. He said it's been very hard for them just to survive in this environment, because they don't have the same nature they used to have before. And he said it's urgent that we change the way we behave in terms of the environment, and also the way we have to protect the nature. We have to plant the tree instead of just cut and just to make fire or to damage everything, because the consequence is very, very hard, and also very difficult just for us to survive in this world. So he said the way they understand the relationship between the nature and the human being must be the protection, or in terms of the sustainable process as well. And he said about the energy, for instance, because they are changing something inside the village, and they don't quite have enough for food or enough for energy as well, because the water, the river had changed the course of the river, and now it has a very long period of the dry weather. I'm not sure if it's dry weather, and because they don't have that much raining time as it used to have, so they are thinking about the electric the oh Jesus, how can I say, the electric power for the sun. Oh God, I forgot the name in English.
A generator?
Solar power.
Oh, the solar. Oh, yeah, solar power. They are thinking about this because it's sustained and the way they can survive in terms of the scarcity, which means the process when they don't have energy, when they don't have food enough, and so they change the way they live inside the village as well. So it must be changed because of the climate change. Something that is impacting the life they are living.
Thank you. It does feel a lot of the time that, particularly in the West, people are insulated from the realities of climate change, particularly the severity of weather events, the mass deforestation, the culling of our fish stocks, all these things that are vitally important to the health and the ecology of our natural environment. But of course, Indigenous peoples typically are living more in harmony or in connection with the natural system. So they're acutely aware of the changes to the environment around them. And I'm quite interested, perhaps Celia and Teal, if you could share with us how some of the lessons from Cacique have been, and his people have been received by your audiences outside of Brazil, and how Western or non-Indigenous audiences are learning or taking on some of these new knowledge or these knowledge systems that you're able to share through these projects.
I think in terms of the reception by audiences outside of the Amazon, outside of Brazil, have been absolutely tremendous. As you say, there's a knowledge that climate change is impacting what people, how they're living, their food sources, their energy sources, and so forth. But until you actually hear someone talk about it and how it affects them on a very deep and personal level, and then how, say, for example, Cacique Domingos has to make decisions with the villagers around their very existence, there's something incredibly powerful about that. And I think one of the things the project has allowed us to do is to open up that conversation with British audiences in particular, in that the two exhibitions that we have been involved with, which are looking at craft and climate change and different kinds of Indigenous practices in relationship to that, we've been able to share the crafts from the village, things like basket weaving, and some of the dolls that are being made, and other aspects where kind of natural fibers are being incorporated into their craft practices. And to open that up through conversations, through other kinds of panel discussions, through people having access to the very objects themselves, and then those objects becoming prompts for thinking about how the object is made and what then the impact of, say, the river itself, if the river is not at the level it needs to be, then that's impacting how the trees in the forest grow and other plants that are being used for craft practices. It personalizes it for a Western audience, and I think makes it much more tangible in terms of understanding. Celia, I don't know if you want to contribute to that.
Yes, we are exactly. He was exactly talking about this point, the way the climate change had changed Amazon lives and the Amazon people lives. It's amazing if you see that some people don't understand that and still don't believe that. It's funny in the same time because in the Amazon, what we see is absolutely horrible. The way the weather change impacted the forest, the life in the forest, the river, especially because the raining is started to make different processes. And I used to say about the Amazon, how the Amazon works, because it is different in a way. All planets live, and also how exactly these work. And in the Amazon, it has a flux that is, like complete. It's absolutely complete from one end to the other. And it's something that it looks like a different planet, because it's a scientific position that the Amazon works differently as the whole environment. I mean, the other places, and now it has changed a lot. It's been changing a lot because of this impact, and also the life in terms of the way they live, because they used to have huge river, and also the way they move inside the forest. They go from boats, the ships and boats, and all transport related to the river. And now they don't have the water. And so what happened? Some people, some community didn't have way just to move from one side to the other side. And so the school, they couldn't go. They couldn't even just to be in touch to anybody. It was a kind of lost inside some places in the Amazon. And so the impact is very, very huge in terms of the how the climate change has impacted their life, as we are saying.
And I think one of the things, Celia, that we were able to do with the project is to capture some of those stories. And if you remember, there's the wonderful video of the craftsperson going into the Amazon by boat to gather wood to make the toy boats. Yeah. So, I mean, just having that, again, the boat as an object to be able to show people outside of the Amazon and to prompt those kinds of conversations, and the stories, as Celia has said as well, to bring those to the fore, I think is really important for people to understand really what's going on and the real significance on personal levels of climate change.
And also the image as well, isn't it, Jill? The image, when what was and what is now, something like you can compare the impact. So you see, it's really unbelievable, because the soil also has been changing, the soil as well, because of the dry condition of these places. In some places, it's not the all Amazon, but in some places, especially nearby the Manaus. Manaus is the capital of the Amazon, Manaus, and we have 9 different states, all related to the Amazon. Let me ask Cacique about this. Cacique?
Oi.
Você pode falar um pouquinho sobre essa coisa do impacto, né? Do impacto dessa mudança climática, da destruição que está acontecendo, das mudanças da chuva, dos ciclos, o que isso tem como isso tem acontecido e o que tem sido a vida de vocês por causa dessas mudanças?
Então, essa mudança do clima, ela está afetando muito, né? Porque essa devastação na floresta, que não é aqui na aldeia, mas claro que no entorno dela, do território, há muita devastação. Então, para nós, mudou muito, né? E também com relação ao rio, essa dragagem que tem no garimpo, afeta porque o rio nosso, o rio Tapajós, ela segue baixando. Então, tudo que vem do garimpo, ela acaba a nós, né? Então, com isso, a gente fica aqui pensando nesse clima que mudou muito. A água perdeu a floresta, não conseguimos mais entender por que elas deram as frutas pequenas, outras não dão mais as frutas. Então, a gente está muito... E essa mudança, ela está transformando muito a vida das pessoas. E é muito... Então, como antes era, a gente vivia muito, muito bom. Viver com a floresta toda, que não tinha devastação aqui, não tinha garimpo. Então, isso acaba afetando a nossa vida. Então, a gente, esse clima, está, cada dia que passa, ele vai afetando mais a vida das pessoas. Então, se a gente não vê uma mudança com o pensamento que eu acabei falando, de governo contribuir, colaborar para que seja reflorestado, ou não sei como pode ser, acaba o clima vai ficar mais forte, o rio vai secar, e com isso é preciso a gente trabalhar muito de conscientizar para que isso não vai acontecer mais, porque vai afetar o mundo, vai afetar todas as pessoas, vai afetar a nossa vida. Então, eu acredito que esse clima que está, se seguir a mesma coisa, é capaz de o mundo mesmo não ter muito demora para acabar, no geral. Mas como experiência, sei que a vida que eu já tive, que tenho, a gente sabe que esse clima está vindo muito rápido, porque além do clima normal que devia ter, o homem está ajudando muito, porque já era quente. A quentura da devastação, ela muda o clima muito rápido, a cor da lua, a cor do sol, a fumaça, a cor da água e a cor até mesmo das aves, ela não tem mais uma cor verde, mas sim por causa do clima. E nós também, pessoas humanas, estamos sentindo muito isso. Então, para que a gente tenha um olhar diretamente nisso, é preciso a gente deixar de fazer algo e fazer alguma coisa com relação à floresta.
Sim. He said something really amazing in terms of this process. He said everything is changing, and what he said about his life, because it used to be a very good life. They had a very good relationship with the nature, and everything was really good, and food was plenty, and now everything changed. Also, the fruit used to be big. Now it's small. I don't know how to say it. It's small now, and also the color of the forest, the trees, and the all trees looks like pale, something like it was different. It was really like, something really I would say bright in terms of the color. The color was very, like a beautiful color, and also bright. And now it's a little pale, something like it's changing. It's changing in all sense. It doesn't mean that it's just because it's not rainy, or only because of this climate, as people say. In this area, especially in where the IDIA is, it is a beautiful place called Floresta Nacional dos Tapajós. which is the national forest, Tapajós National Forest. And it's a very, very big area. And the village is inside this place, the village. And the whole area, it's protected by the government. And he said it's important that the government has this, protect them, protect the environment, protect the people who live inside the forest. Because if they don't do that, everybody is going to be died. Everybody is going to be killed in the same, like in the same time. And he said this is important in this area where he lives, is especially related to deforestation, because the agribusiness increased a lot in Brazil. Increased because it's money. It's really money in this business concern. So they are the invader. I don't know if it's invader. It's been like just aggressively destroying the forest. Really. So in this area, almost area are quite empty. It's just cow, and also just nothing, or soybean, the plantation, just plantation. It's a very big kilometers far, only soybean plantation. So if they, he said he agreed, soybean plantação de soja, isn't it, Cacique Domingos? He said yes, he's understand. Yeah, he's understand. It's soybean. So he said this must be stopped, otherwise the damage is going to be worse. So it's horrible to say, but we can all die because of the hot. Because now it was hot, but now it's worse than ever. It's really hot.
Celia, thank you very much for translating that kōrero. And there's a lot of things in that was shared. And the interesting thing, I think, is if we think about what is a possible outcome, we think about storytelling, and how do we tell these stories, and how do we get these stories out into the world so that they're heard and that they're seen. And I think one of the greatest tools that we have is around our collaboration and around our communities. So if we're collaborating with communities and we're collaborating with other groups and people to share these stories, I wonder if you might be able to share with us, Teal, Celia, and also the Chief, if you could kind of maybe share some of the stories that you have around how you've created collaboration in communities to help share these stories. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would be interested in understanding by what process does one go about creating those connections and those communities to share those stories out wide.
Gosh, there's so many stories. I think one of the important things to say is that the project that we worked on together came out of the Chief's interest in terms of education and communication. And so we were very fortunate to work with some of the teachers and with some of the pupils at the village school. And I think the story that will always resonate for me, because it took me completely out of my comfort zone, but in a really good way, is that we were invited into the village school with all of the pupils there and the teachers. And one of the teachers was teaching the students around the traditional Munduruku language. And one of my colleagues, who's a musician, was sharing with the students some of the, he was sharing Row Row Your Boat. and giving that opportunity to the pupils there to learn that song and for us to all sing it together. So the reciprocity came when we needed to learn the traditional Munduruku songs as well. And so here we're sitting in the same kind of situation we are today, with all the young people, the teachers and the researchers, all singing different kinds of songs together in different kinds of languages. And I think the importance of that has huge significance in terms of how we understand each other, how we interact with each other, how we're learning and exchanging knowledge with each other. So that's the one thing, thanks to the teachers and to the students, that we were able to kind of glean from that particular moment. And there were many of those moments within the project, and still continue to be in terms of our conversations with Cacique Domingos. So that was one thing that I was thinking about when you were asking that question. Celia, I don't know if you've got another moment.
Yeah, as you're saying, we have a lot to say, a lot of, like storytelling, as Matt said. Matt wanted just to have these conversations as well, and exchange these, the culture, the music, as Teal said. It was wonderful this time. It was really good. I will ask Cacique if you want to say something. Cacique, durante o projeto, né? Durante o nosso projeto, o Matt e a Teal, né, a gente fez várias conversas, lembra? E aí vocês contavam as histórias, e aí a gente também conversava com vocês, e essas coisas todas foram relatadas, né? Foram gravadas, né? E aí teve dias também que o Matt ensinou uma música em inglês, né? E aí os estudantes cantaram a música em inglês, né? E eles gravaram e mandaram para o Matt. Então, assim, dessa experiência desse projeto da Biblioteca Munduruku, tem alguma coisa que o senhor lembre, que gostaria de relatar, assim, de algumas coisas que foi dessa conversa, alguma coisa que o senhor gostaria de falar? O senhor entendeu?
Entendi. Eu lembro, sim, porque a primeira coisa que eu lembro é que a gente começado esse conhecimento, né, essa aproximação, isso ficou com uma coisa assim, o começo de tudo, né?
Sim.
Eu acredito que começou, parou, e a gente pensa agora em retornar à possa, começar algo não semelhante, mas que seja pensado se a gente continuar fazendo um projeto, mas pensando em algo diferente, mais com relação à natureza, à floresta, por exemplo, é voltado a isso, porque a tecnologia ela faz parte, mas se a gente não tem essa floresta, né, essa tecnologia ela não vai valer, entendeu? E é importante que a gente cuide da natureza com um olhar bem diferente, para que a gente possa ter a garantia da nossa vida e a garantia dos demais, aqui no Brasil e em outros países, porque os outros países também são nossos, né? E pensar muito em cima de algo com a floresta. Para mim, é importante a gente cuidar agora do nosso meio ambiente, do nosso rio e da nossa floresta. Pensar algo, foi pensado uma forma de conhecimento, de como se aproximar de uma tecnologia para que possa buscar algo que possa ajudar através da tecnologia, mas agora a gente tem que voltar a pensar que é importante a natureza para nós. Nós indígenas vivemos. Então, eu lembro muito bem que a gente começou pelo lado, que foi muito bom, ter o conhecimento, mas agora pensar algo, se for o caso, mas voltada à natureza.
Yes. He said since the beginning, when he we approach when we start to meet each other from the technology. I mean, through the technology process, as we done with social media or WhatsApp. He said we knew that this is a very important time just to have both. But his concern is that the process started and finished in somehow stop it, and now we've been thinking just to have the still conversation, and he said it's important for him that we focus on the nature, because we focus about the process of artifact or crafters, and now he said, and now we have to push a little bit and start to think how important it is just to create a process to think about the nature and how it is important for the young people. He said that. And for myself, I feel very, very happy to think when we start the project with Teal and Matt, and how it was amazing to see the face of them, just to see how they were happy just to be in touch with different culture and different language, and they laughed a lot. Remember, Teal? They laughed and said, ha, 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 all the time, just laughing. It's really cute. And one day, the teacher, the mother, the Munduruku, or the mother tongue. I don't remember exactly the name. The Munduruku language teacher. He said, I really appreciate if Teal and Matt could see our class here, our class, teaching class here in the village. And they filmed the children just singing in Munduruku, and also singing in English, because they wanted just to show us that they are learning. So the learning process, English, special English, they said, could you just give us a class, English class, please? It was, isn't it? It was good. So I think something like is much more like a simple way of living, because they are very simple in every, like in every sense. That's make, like they are so beautiful, because it's beautiful, the way they behave, and they feel the life. It's absolutely is. It doesn't mean that they need something, like a very, very special. Nature is just enough for them. What they say all the time. The nature is enough for us. We are very rich because we live inside the forest, because we have these, like the way they live, the way we live, they say, is absolutely complete, because we are, like the same. Nature and us, we are the same. So I think we have a lot just to learn from them about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that I think was one aspect of collaborative practices or cooperative practices, where we were all working together towards a shared endpoint. And that was to learn from each other, to sing together, to appreciate the different languages that were on screen at the time as well. And we did record everything. So, I play that back occasionally, and it does make me smile. We did laugh a lot, but it was laughter in terms of you were learning something new and different, and being able to kind of critique your own practices, and how could you learn from that and change things in a way that would actually operate much better in the world more generally.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing those really cool stories with us. I'm really curious about, if we think about storytelling, right? And we think if we're sharing stories to ourselves and we're sharing stories within the groups that we know, then our stories stay kind of local. What I'm wondering is when you've been doing this work, thinking about the communities that you've had to build outside of the work that you're doing. So I think you're in a really unique position because you're creating community with the chief and his whānau, but also what part of what you need to do is be creating communities outside, back in the Western world, to share the stories that you're hearing and to share the learnings that you're hearing. I'm really curious about, how you, and I think our audience might be too, around how you go about building a community now that you understand how Indigenous communities are built. Has your building community practices changed the way that you connect and collaborate with people outside the chief and his whānau?
Yes, that's a really great question. I'm going to have to think through that. Yeah, there's not a simple answer to it, I don't think, because I think it's so nuanced in terms of the different ways that we can look at this. But in terms of building communities outside of the immediate project family, we have built communities through the Crafts Council with other Indigenous communities that are working on very similar projects. So there's a very strong international exchange between different craft makers, different researchers working and based in the UK, for example, working again, in East Asia or in Africa, or again in Brazil, to be able to exchange those experiences and understandings of each other. And that's happened through presentations, through talks and conferences, and also exhibitions, as I said earlier. There's also, I would say, learning communities. And I think within the RCA, I work primarily with PhD students, which is its own knowledge community, and bringing those stories and the methodological processes that Celia and the chief and I have been engaging with into the classroom. And that's one of the really nice things about Celia being able to come in as a visiting researcher in the couple of times that she has been to the RCA, to be able to share those experiences collectively with the PhD students, who they themselves are working in different kinds of communities on community engagement projects as part of their PhD studies. So that gets shared out yet again. I think the third kind of way in terms of building communities is community of understanding around institutional behaviors in relationship to international projects and working with Indigenous communities. There are very different institutionalized ways of operating, as we know in the Western world. There's finance systems, there's tax systems, there's communication, all the kinds of things that we all know and love within our own institutions. And I will have to give the RCA a great deal of credit for being very flexible and agile in how they approached, still within legal constraints, but how they themselves approached the project and the kinds of things we needed to put in place. For example, ethics processes. So you can't make something fit that isn't what it needs to be. And so we were able, through a number of conversations, develop our ethics applications in a way that took into account different ways of working. And that brought to our ethics community a really important and crucial discussion around how we better understand ethical processes and ways of working with Indigenous communities that we need to be accountable and responsible to understand in order to be able to move forward with projects. So again, breaking down some of the institutionalized Western scholarly ways of doing and being much more open and agile in terms of how this project was able to move forward. So I think for me, those were the kinds of communities and community building, at least as a small example of the many conversations I've had with others working in similar areas.
Fantastic. Thank you, Teal. This is sort of bringing us towards the close of our conversation here today. And so I'd just like to take this opportunity to first say obrigada, Cacique, and thank you, Teal and Celia, for your contributions today to this wonderful, rich conversation. There's been a lot of themes brought to the surface, but in particular, things that resonate quite strongly for me is the power of storytelling in terms of sharing the realities of the climate crisis with wider audiences. As we've touched on, Cacique and his community are living very much at the coalface of observing the climate crisis, particularly with the changes to their fruit, to their food, to the forest around them. And so being able to share stories about the lived experience of these groups with wider communities enables us as a global movement to start to realize, wow, we need to sort this out immediately. We need to make change right now. We can't just stick our heads in the sand and think that these things will eventually repair themselves, because they won't. I love that through community engagement, through education and storytelling, we can share these really vital messages, but also how we can share these within Indigenous communities and across Indigenous communities in terms of where there are examples of shared communities of practice, stemming from that deep and intimate living with the natural environment. I also love that song and music as a vehicle of connection and storytelling has been a vital part of this project, because music is a great equalizer. It's something that all people throughout the world have had experience with. It's a way that we connect with each other. It's a way that we share knowledge. It's a way that we share history, the way that we share dreams for the future. And ultimately, it's just so valuable to be able to connect into conversations like this, to be able to share the lessons of Chief Cacique and his community in terms of the important work that they're doing within their community context, whilst living and adapting to changes in the environments around them. So there's a lot of valuable lessons that we can all take and apply to our contexts, particularly through the work of that technology can enable us to do through sharing these stories. And before I close us off with a karakia to end this wonderful conversation, I'd just love to hand the talking stick back to my wonderful colleague Keita. If there's anything that you would like to add, my friend.
What a beautiful summary, my friend. Thank you very much. I think if I was going to add anything to that, what I kind of heard from Celia and Teal about the practice of working alongside Indigenous cultures and Indigenous people, and it's things that we've heard through, through the kōrero, through the other four webinar that we've had so far. What I heard was when working alongside Indigenous people, it's about listening. It is about really, really listening and letting go of any assumptions that you have. It's about holding very gently what you are given and not assuming that you fully understand it. So it's always seeking that connection to understand. It's allowing the people that you work with to take the lead and following their process and working at a pace that they set and that the way that they work sets. And so, those are some really, really cool things that I heard. I heard about reciprocity and how important that was and how it played such a big part. I heard about connection and collaboration, so finding ways to connect and collaborate, as Lucy talked about with the storytelling. And I heard, there was something that you said, Teal, about the intergenerational way of working and the intergenerational way of thinking, which is another thing that has come up a bit through the kōrero that we've had. So I think when we started this conversation, it was an awesome opportunity to talk to both sides of a project where you have Indigenous people and Western frameworks and Western people working together to see how that actually played out. And so I really enjoyed hearing all of your stories. Celia, you have your hand up.
Sorry, because Cacique wants us to leave the meeting.
Okay.
He was quite... Cacique?
Sim,
Cacique, você que já está querendo sair, é isso?
eu tô no horário aqui, já tô querendo sair já.
Ah, você estava mostrando quem aí? Tinha uma pessoa, não tinha? Uma criança. Quem que é?
Uma netinha aqui
Quem que é que
da
está aí? Mostra aí de novo, mostra.
já vou mostrar depois.
Ela não quer, não?
Já vem, já vem.
Você quer dizer alguma coisa? Porque aí você diz, aí você pode sair, Cacique. Só de repente você já fala tchau.
Tá, então, eu quero agradecer, né, mais uma vez essa oportunidade de estar junto e espero eu ter respondido também as perguntas. Agradecer o grupo, a TIL, como somos parceiros, e aí a gente espera a gente continuar nessa linha de conhecimento e trocar experiência e poder avançar no que a gente estava te falando, a questão da floresta, meu olhar para a floresta agora nesse momento, porque é nela que a gente vive e é nela que nós vivemos aqui. Então, para nós, voltado nosso pensamento à floresta mesmo. Muito obrigado a todos. Um grande
Ok.
abraço a todos que estão participando da reunião. Que Deus abençoe cada um de nós.
Ok. Cacique, se o senhor quiser depois sair, então pode sair. Oh, que fofinha. He said he must go now because another group are waiting for him. And he just wanted to say thank you very much for this opportunity. He hopes we can, keep talking about what we've been talking today, and also keep exchanging knowledge, and keep going in terms of the project. He hopes we can just follow what we've been doing before. I mean, what we done, and also just to keep going. He said, "Thank you very much," and he wants us to think to protect the nature because it's very important for everybody.
Obrigada. Obrigada, Cacique.
Obrigada, Cacique.
Obrigado.
Se quiser sair, Cacique, pode sair, tá? Pode fechar sua câmera. Obrigada, Cacique.
Obrigado.
Muito obrigada.
Obrigado.
Até já, Cacique.
Fantastic. And that effectively brings us to the close. Oh, thank you, Celia. Nature is enough. And that was just another little gem that I think Celia or Teal, I can't remember now, Aroha mai, that nature is enough. And it is our duty as beings of this planet to look after the beautiful nature around us and to ensure that we have a beautiful environment to gift to our children and our children's children into the future. But we can only do that through living in harmony with our natural environment and through listening to the lessons of our incredible Indigenous populations around the world. So this brings us to our closing. I would like to share a karakia in te reo Māori, which I will then translate for all of you as well. Pau hihiri, pau rārama, pau o te whakaaro, pau o te tangata, pau o te aroha, te pau e here nei i a tātou, mauri ora i a tātou, humie huie tai ki e. And that translates to, may clarity be yours, may understanding be yours through reflection, through personal endeavour, through respect. The virtues that binds us are one. May we be filled with well-being for one another, bind us together. Thank you everybody for joining our 5th Indigenizing Design Kōrero session today. Our next one will be at the end of next month in September, so please keep up to date with our wonderful website and we hope to see you there. Thank you all for joining.
Oi, Kat. Boa tarde.
Eu sou o Cacique Domingos, da aldeia Bargaço de Povo Munduruku, e a gente está aqui para fazer um trabalho agora e a gente vai começar com as perguntas. Como experiência própria, nós, Povo Munduruku, como chefe, a gente sabe que a importância maior é poder estar sempre conscientizando as crianças, as pessoas da aldeia, para que a gente esteja assim, tudo aprendendo e ao mesmo tempo ensinando. Então, nossa prática de trabalhar com experiência, de conscientizar, para nós é muito importante, porque a criança ela cresce já aprendendo, sabendo que é a importância de a gente viver com uma vida com harmonia com o povo. Então, para nós, como experiência, é conscientizar, estar sempre com uma sala de aula dentro da sua própria casa, dentro da sua própria aldeia, para que ele possa sair dali bem prático, para que ele tenha uma vida bem harmoniosa com o povo na aldeia. A gente sabe que a parte climática foi uma das coisas que mais afetou nos tempos para cá. Como antes era muito diferente o clima. Hoje a gente sabe que a parte climática ela veio, a temperatura veio muito forte, mas por devastação da floresta, por garimpagem e dragagem. Então isso afetou muito a floresta, porque esquentou muito. Hoje nós temos uma prática de poder reativar esse aprendizado e poder plantar e poder usar as frutas como alimento e, no mesmo tempo, também trabalhar em cima do que essas próprias aves elas sirvam também para formar o nosso artesanato. Então, plantando, colhendo e fazendo ao mesmo tempo. Então, para isso, o clima ela volta porque a floresta ela se recompõe e o clima volta a ser como antes. Então, se todo mundo plantar intenção de alimento e intenção de fazer o próprio artesanato, então todas as árvores que a gente planta, ela serve como artesanato no nosso sustento e a gente vai poder vender dali, produzir alguma coisa algo que a floresta continue trazendo um clima bom e uma vida melhor. Trabalhar com a comunidade, trabalhar com outras pessoas de fora, que possuem de outras organizações, é muito importante porque a colaboração ela ajuda muito também com um pouco essa força mas assim, colaboração significa que ajuda, significa que fortalece. Então, que outras pessoas venham colaborar, ensinando, para beneficiando, isso fica melhor porque a gente tem como aproveitar mais tudo aquilo que a gente no trabalho artesanal a gente acaba esfregando uma parte. Então, colaboração para nós é aquelas pessoas que se dedicam a ajudar, trazer colaboração para fortalecer o povo, para fortalecer a comunidade. Então, todo mundo fica assim, eu agora estou melhor. Uma colaboração daqui, ajuntando com a nossa, significa que fortalece a nossa vida e nós ficamos assim, tipo, todo mundo fica bem fortalecido. As organizações que estão nos ajudando hoje, que possam nos ajudar muito tarde, seria muito importante para nós, porque essa colaboração, se juntando com a nossa, ela vai fortalecer muito a nossa vida aqui e a gente ser capaz de ser o exemplo do amanhã.